Hello and welcome back. This is part two of going over the October SAT 2023 that the College Board has released. We are now hitting the calculator section, and from this video, we will hit questions from 1 to number 20. The reason for that is as I've always mentioned, 1 through 20 are what I like to call the freebie zone, the freebie zone. And those questions are usually the ones where most of the kids should get correct. And using the calculator, a lot of kids feel just feel more comfortable. And you shouldn't really make any mistakes on these. Maybe at max only one to really optimize your score. Okay, so let's get started here. Number one, the function gives the total amount of KX in dollars Kayla earned. 10 weeks at the store, how much does she make? Okay, I mean, must I say more? Plug in X is 10. And that's a really easy multiplication if you ask me. 260 times 10, I think, anyone can do that. So moving on to number two. The function f is defined by that. Okay, so again, it's pretty much the same thing as number one. Plug in x is 5, and that's 5 plus 4. 5 plus 4. Great. Yeah, like I said, freebie zone, right? Anyone, like you guys should all get this correct. What is the equation of the graph shown? Okay, so now we're moving up to algebra 1 level. -1 is your y-intercept, so let's get rid of all the garbage answers. Plus ones are not in your realm of scope. Is this positive or negative slope? We're going up. Well, duh, then it's a positive slope. So C, A has a negative slope. So yeah, we're not going to pick A. Number 4, what is the minimum number of books in the book drop recorded during this time? Now, when I first did this, I didn't really understand what that meant, but, looking at the fact that, number 4 and, just on the freebie zone, I guess that what they were asking was the lowest possible number of books that was dropping at the time. So that number is obviously 1. So yeah, that's the minimum number of books. Number 5, what is the positive solutions to the given equation? Well, get rid of the square roots on both sides for me. M squared equals 64 squared. I mean, what more can I say? That's just a matching game. You got to get the same thing on the left hand and the right hand side. So bam, we got 64s. Number 6, for a polynomial function, yeah. All right, so some of the students who did this, they were like taking their time with this. And you're given a table and a graph. You're just matching the points, match points to the graph. And some students really overthink this, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how am I supposed to do graph that looks like this?" And they've never done that before. Well, let's just take it one thing at a time. The first point I see is -4, 0. By the way, you have to have a good knowledge of converting the table into coordinate format. X is -4, Y is 0, so there we go. Now, if you look at A, -4, 0 is supposed to be here, and the graph is not even going through that point. So you can automatically eliminate A. Narrow your scope of your choices. C goes through that, certainly. D doesn't even go through that because it's supposed to be here. And B goes through. Okay, so I'm already down to a 50-50 situation just by understanding the first point, the first coordinate was -4, 0. Next one was -1, 3. So -1, 3, well, if I were to use answer choice C, it looks like when x equals -1, y is like -3-ish or something like that. Like more like it's a negative number for y. There's no way it's going to be C then. Verify for B at -1. Look at that. It's going to be a positive 3, it looks like, so it's going to be B. Number 7, the scatter plot shows a relationship between the two variables, x and y, line of best fit. For 4, what is the closest? Okay. I mean, that's same thing as saying number 1, I think. Just read the graph and match the points, so it's at 10. Number 8, in a group of 8 children, 2 have freckles and 6 do not have freckles. Okay, so if one of the 8 children selected random, ooh, probability question. Okay, selecting a child who has freckles. Any probability is a fraction. Please remember, probability is always going to be a fraction. And so the fraction here would be out of those 8 children. So always the denominator has to be the total of the scope of the people that you're trying to select from. And 2 have freckles. So that's 2 over 8. Reduce that down to 1 over 4. It's a quarter. So it's A in terms of decimal. Number 9, the ratio of Jupiter's diameter to Saturn's diameter is approximately 1.2 to 1. Now, I'm going to label this and say that is your Jupiter, that is your Saturn. They say in that specific order, Jupiter to Saturn is 1.2 to 1. So you need to know which number represents for Jupiter and which number represents for Saturn. Then they say the diameter of Jupiter is approximately 143K or 143,000 kilometers. So I'm going to write 143,000 kilometers for Jupiter. Then what is the diameter for the Saturn, which is X right here? Now, let's just kind of think of the common sense. You guys have the calculator with you. You guys know what to do. Cross multiply 1.2x equals 143,000 divided by 1.2. And then you will get your answer to be C. And most importantly, what you should do is eliminate the fact that Saturn is going to have a bigger diameter than Jupiter, because when Saturn is 1, Jupiter is 1.2. There's no way Saturn is going to have a bigger diameter than Jupiter. And 1.2 and 1 are awfully close to one another, right? So common sense says it's going to be C. But just to be sure, use the calculator and then you just get the answer that way. Number 10, scatter plot again. All right, positive slope with the y-intercept of 2. Come on now, that's D, right? That's the only one with the y-intercept of 2. And how do I know that that's a y-intercept? They kind of swapped up the order, but if you write it as x plus 2, that's a slope of 1 and y-intercept of 2. All these other ones, y-intercept of 0, y-intercept of 0, y-intercept of 1, yep, they don't work. So it's going to be D. 11, for the linear function f, the table shows 3 values, corresponding values. Okay, so we want to find out the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, from a table. All right, so the first thing is to figure out the slope. I found out that a lot of students don't really know how to find slope properly, which is gravely concerning. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. They know the formula, but they don't know how to apply it on a table format, which is what's troubling me. So we have 2 y values here. I mean, just think of this as 0, 13, and think of this as 10, 9. Maybe if it's in a coordinate format, it might help you. Then you do y2 minus y1, which is 13 minus 9. You can do that way, or 9 minus 13, it doesn't matter. Then you do over 0 minus 10, which should give you 4 over negative 10. Reduce that down to 2 over 5. Already, because I know my slope is negative 2 over 5, that's the only one that matches the slope of 11. So the answer is D. I don't even care about the y-intercept because they're all going to give you 13 from the first coordinate. And so, yes, that's how you distinguish the correct answer. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression 2 and negative 2 cancels out nicely. Combine those two together. Negative x squared minus another x squared means I have 2 of those. D. Number 13, a data set consists of 100 values. The least is 30. The greatest of the 2 values are 80 and 125. A lot of times when they give you a data questions, a lot of kids get stuck because they don't have a lot of experience with these. But what this shows is that I have the least, I have the highest 2, and there are about 97 numbers here that I don't know anything about. There's 97 numbers between from 30 to 80. If the value of 125 is removed, okay, 125 is removed from the original data set to create a new data set with 99, which of the statement must be true? First of all, 125 is significantly higher than the rest of the group. If you get rid of 125, imagine what's going to happen to the overall data in terms of the averages. All of these numbers together, 99 of them, they're all going to be somewhere between 30 and 80. And when you average them out, they're going to be something in between 30 and 80. But when 125 was there, the 125 pulls the mean towards the right-hand side because 125 is significantly higher than the rest. I mean, think about your grade book, right? You have 30, 60, 70, 80 on your test, and suddenly you got 125 on your final exam. What's going to happen to your grade? It's going to go up. Because the average of these 5 numbers, having this gigantic boost of a grade with 125 will boost your grade up. But your teacher decides to take that out. Obviously, with these horrible grades, you're going to fail this class. So the 125 actually improved your average. The means of the two data set will be the same. Heck no. The mean of the new data set will be less. Yes, because 99 of those data set from 30 to 80 will be significantly lower than this 125, pulling the average upwards. So therefore, the correct answer here should be B. Why do we not care about the medians? The median is crossing out one by one and figuring out the middle number. The 125 counts as just one number on the right-hand side. So even if you were to get rid of the 125, the middle number that is existing will still be staying existing there. Like for example, if I gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 100, the median of this is 3, and the median of this, or maybe I should just add 1 here, like the median of this is still 3. Just because you have this 100 doesn't change the fact that the median is somehow going to change. So what we say is that the median is resistant to the outliers. For because AP stats teacher, so I mean that's the technical terminologies. So it's resistant to these what we call outliers. A strong difference of the values from the rest of the group. So hopefully that really explained 13. Next, number 14. Approximately what percentage of these trees have a trunk diameter less than 6? So we're talking about these guys. Seems like the frequency chart tells me that there are 5 of them. So it's 5 out of 95, which is the total amount of trees there are. So what's 5 out of 95 here? Just using one of the calculators here. Yeah, so I get 0.0526. That should be B for this. Which of the following is a possible value of the median? Now, for the histograms, I tell, even my AP stats kids to what I like to call cross out boxes. So if there were like 5 of them here, if I cross out them, I cross out 5 from the higher end. There's 10 of these here. So I cross out one of these and one of these, which amounts to 10. And then you can figure out eventually that the median will somewhere lie on, let's take a look. So these two charts, these two, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the median has to lie somewhere between 18 to 24, it seems like. And yeah, which of the following is a possible value? Somewhere between 18 to 24. The only answer that works is C. Or you can think of this as, okay, we have 95 numbers. What's that divided by 2? Well, that's 47.5. So you're really looking for the 48th term. There are 5 here. There are 10 here. So that's a total of 15 numbers. That's 30. So that's 45 numbers if you put them all of these together. So the 48th term has to lie somewhere over here in this bar. So therefore, that could get you the same answer, which is C. So 2 ways to solve it. Number 16, the 3 candidates who ran for city council position Memphis in 2015 received 14,705. The ratio of votes for the first candidate to second was 4-1. Okay, so it seems like I might have to just create some variables here. So X to Y, which represents first and second candidate, that's 4-1. The ratio of votes from the first candidate to the third candidate, which I'm going to call Z, is approximately 100 to 13. Based on this information, which is the following closest to the number of votes received by the first candidate. Okay, so we have different ratios, so we are going to convert them to be the same. I have 4-1 and 100 to 13. I can't really compare these because the x's are different. But there is a way for me to change the 4 so that I can get up to 100. Let's multiply both of these by 25. So if X receives 100 votes, Y will receive 25 votes if the ratio was to be still intact with 4-1 ratio. Now, if X was 100, Y was 25, but that also gives you the same ratio for Z because when X is 100, Z is also at the same time 13. And so this is the ratio. Which of the following is closer to the number of votes received by the first candidate, it says. So if the ratio were these, I'm going to simply add them all up because if I have 100 votes for X, that gives you these two other respective votes for Y and Z, which should come out to be 138 votes in total. So if you are able to get first candidate to receive 100 votes out of those 138, let's set up a ratio. What will be the total number of votes in the actual count of 14,705. Ratio, once again, cross multiply. So this one I actually have to use the calculator because I don't feel like doing that by hand. Divide, and then you get x is equal to 10,655.79, closest to being C. Now, if you're forgetting cross multiplication, just remember 138x is equal to 14,705.00, which is 1,470,500. Divide both sides by 138 and let the calculator do the work for you. Number 17, Kai went on a bike ride. During the first mile of his bike ride, he rode at a constant speed s. The first mile of his ride, Kai increased his speed by 100%. Okay, increasing by 100%, guys, means that it's doubled, okay? It's like your output is 100% more. You start with 100%, then you add another 100%. That's times 2. So if he first ran the first mile s as Kai's speed, the second mile would be 2 times s. Kai yeah. Which of the following expression it represents the speed of Kai rode his bike after? Okay, so that's just the speed. 2s. Number 18. All right, so we have a dot plot. Standard deviation. That letter S in the beginning of the standard deviation stands for spread out, okay? The more spread out it is, the higher standard deviation is going to be. You can think of it as a range. It's close proximity of, it has a lot to do with range of the data set. So in this case, it seems like the answer is pretty clear. Which one has the highest spread? It seems like A is going from 4 to 8. That's the measure of the spread. B goes only from 3 to 5, so it's very narrow. C has some sort of a spread, but it's going from 2 to 5. We have a winner, D, going from a whopping 1 to 8. It's more spread out, more standard deviation. That's the idea. Number 19 and 20. All right, so a state representative wants to increase the amount of driving practice time required before a student, blah, blah, blah. All right, so we have a random set. There's a lot of statistics questions on here. 50 from 250. The survey reported 62% of students taking the class agree. Based on the results of the survey, how many students surveyed agree with the proposed change? So you have to be careful. We have a random sample of 50. So we have targeted those 50 students and we asked them questions about it. And they said 62% of the students taking the class agree. The survey reported. So how many of the students surveyed out of those 50 students did they agree? So you have to multiply that by 62%, not the 250 times 0.62, because they are not talking about the students that surveyed. The 250 are the entire number of students who's taking the class right then and there. So it's 50 times 0.62, which should give you 31 for that. Number 20, which of the following population results of the survey can be extended to? I always tell my students to always match the details as much as possible from the context. So what this means is, okay, so you targeted the 50 from 250 students. I'm going to use a highlighter for this one. 250 students taking the driver's education class at Jefferson High School. That's the context. Those are the people that you can extrapolate to or use the results of the findings to apply to. This cannot apply to any US high school. That can't work because different regions, different rules, different types of people, culture. Students taking a driver's education class at again, not any US high school. We have to specify it to Jefferson High School only, which is contained with answer choice C and D. But what's the better answer? Obviously D. Students taking a driver's education class. People who don't take driver's education class might not even care about this survey at all, because this really has everything to do with driving practice time. Why would seniors care about that? Why would freshmen care about that? They can't even drive yet, or they're probably already driving, or their opinions may matter. So you really need to specify it to the uttermost detail. And that answer is obviously D here. Okay, so we'll wrap up this video with question number 21 because it's on this page as our last problem. Which quadratic equation has exactly 1? If there's a quadratic and tells you how many, that's your cue. Write down the word discriminant. Discriminant allows you to discriminate against 3 different set of results. Greater than 0, equal to 0, less than 0. And where did this even come from? The good old-fashioned quadratic formula. It's that thing inside the square root. This matters because it tells you the nature of the roots. If this was greater than 0, you have 2 real roots. If this was equal to 0, you have 1. And if this was less than 0, you have no real roots. We call it imaginary roots, but we call it, like, also at the same time 0 real roots. So if they tell you I have exactly 1 distinct real solution, it literally means to take the b squared minus 4ac and set it equal to 0. And that's all you really have to do. The only annoying part about this is that you have 4 choices and you have to plug in b squared minus 4ac to every single one of them. Yeah. So let's do it. A, it's 4 squared minus 4, 1 times 16. Now, right out of the get-go, that's 16 minus 64, so no, that's less than 0. B, that's negative 8 squared minus 4, 1, negative 16. That's 64 plus 64, so that's greater than 0, so B is out. C, that's negative 6 squared minus 4, negative 16 times 1. 36 minus plus 64, excuse me, that's greater than 0. All right, so it seems like we only have our winner, which is D. Let's check it out. So negative 8 squared minus 4 times positive 16. What do you know? 64 minus 64 does give you a 0 for letter choice D. So yes. Yeah, you have to, there's no other way around it. Unless you can just do mental math quickly in your head, but I wouldn't recommend it because negative signs, positive, like somewhere, you're more bound to make mistakes if you don't write it down. So D is the correct answer. And that should be it for part 2. For part 3, I will move on to question number 22 and wrap up until question number 38 of the section 4 calculator section of the test. I will see you in the next video.